All right. So already Dr. Ruxana has introduced me. She has told a little bit about my background, but I just want that when we are already talking about engagement, we take it a little informally. So I am Naomi. My superpower is that I am a linguist. So can we quickly have your names and one superpower you think that you possess? So we'll start from Mamu Sarat. What do you think? What's your superpower?
I think I'm a good listener.
Okay, good listener. Excellent. Yeah. Can we just pass on to the next person? Adil and
My name is Adil Khalid, and my department is English Language and Literature. And my superpower is that I have a friend who is a linguist.
all right. Thank you for the compliment.
I'm trying to.
All right. Next we have is Saleh.
My name is Mama Saleh Habib. I'm from the English department, and I guess my superpower is that my curiosity.
Okay, curiosity, which makes you inquisitive. We can just refrain to just the names and one superpower so that we finish up in time. And the people who on Zoom can also send their responses in the chat, and we will try to go through them as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Asfazia, and I think my superpower is that I am emotionally intelligent.
Okay, wow. Emotionally intelligent. Asfaya. Next we have is Faiza.
This is Faiza, yes. And I think the superpower that I have, that's being inventive. I think that's something that helps me a lot. Surviving as a human too.
All right, survival. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shamail, and I think that I'm a good observer. I think.
Okay,
that's
that's
my
good. So
superpower.
we'll know how good observer you are by the end of the presentation.
Hello, Naomi.
Hi.
I think that you know me well, but I'm Ramisha Farooq from Education Department. I think my superpower that I just discovered in a couple of months is that I'm brave and strong.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Daniel Lance, superpowers coding, maybe?
All right, thank you. I hope you're also getting responses on the Zoom as well. We just have 3 responses. We'll just check if they're relevant. Yes, please. Whom do we have next?
Khalid Javed from physics. I'm a good observer, I think so.
Okay, that's wonderful. Yes, please.
My name is Mustafa, and I believe my superpower is that I am a good actor.
Oh, so you're going to act that you're very attentive, any such thing?
I can act as a good teacher in the classroom. At the same time, I can act differently outside the university.
All right, that's wonderful.
This is Dr. Sham, and I think my superpower is I do not claim any superpower.
All right, that's being very humble, Chi.
Well, Kamran from Political Science Department. Well, I think my superpower is diverse teaching strategies. I mean, at the same time, in one class or section.
Okay, that's wonderful because we will be talking about diversity as well.
Harun from the Department of Social Sciences, Teaching Education, college side. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think I have a deep desire for learning. That's what I can say.
All right, this is good to know. And I think this will just give us a room to probably think and narrow it down, that when we talk about ourselves, we usually don't think that what our strengths and weaknesses. The usual things we are talking about are just according to the interview perspective. Acha interview dena, ye हमारी strength होगी, ये weakness होगी. But I hope this will help you to brainstorm as well. Yes, please.
Naveed Tahir from Economics Department. I like reading.
You like sleeping?
I like reading.
Oh, I'm so sorry, reading. My mistake. Yes, sir, Salim.
Dr. Salim Abbas from Mass Communication Department. I have a strong predilection towards literature and art, painting.
Yeah, I have seen that. So yes, that's your superpower. I think we have one more person, or we have covered everyone.
My superpower is I devise the time well, division of time, and then accomplish the task well.
Okay, so you're a good planner probably and executor. So thank you, everyone. And if you could just monitor and see, okay, we have responses in the chat. Can we just have a very quick, yeah.
I will read them out. Ms. Nadia Iftikhar says that I am a positivist and I try to spread positivity. Dr. Ashish says that I am a good listener and observer. Dr. Farah Rehan says that I am a very good motivator. Muhammad Usman Yusuf from Physics Department. And Miss Sabah Iqbal says that she's a good motivator and a good listener. Sayyid Irtaza Shafkat, he says that my superpower is separating theory from practice. Pharmacy Safir Khan says that he has good communication skills. Dr. Farad Ali says that I stay positive. Sharoon Naseem says that I'm a good learner and a teacher. And Mohammad Usman says that I'm a good observer. Miss Sylvia Machado says that see things always from the positive point of view. Dr. Mohammad Rovedat says that my superpower is that I am easily adjustable in diversity. Dr. Abdullah Khoso says my superpower is I never quit, but continue with persistence and patience. And Arif Allah Rakha says that I am determined and very focused. And Ms. Sumaira Akram says that I am a good listener.
All right. So thank you everyone for your responses. So if you see that we all are coming from very diverse places, especially if I talk about disciplines, and today's topic is definitely about student engagement. Sir Shahid, you'll have to help me with the slide change, please. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so as the title says, it's student engagement within a UDL framework. And as Dr. Ruxana was already briefing you a little bit about that, well, this is what we are going to talk about. But when we talk about engagement, the word engagement has different connotations for different people. And yes, I borrowed this from someone. This is not mine. So when I was not a linguist, I had just one explanation of the word engagement, that if somebody offers you a ring, and that would mean you get engaged to that person. However, the perspective and the interpretation would be definitely different when we talk about a classroom. So what do you think? What is your interpretation or understanding of a classroom engagement? What comes to your mind when you think of the word engagement? So we have another activity in which you need to go to menti.com. Probably these activities would be more convenient for the people who are online, but the ones who are in person, you can just type menti.com and then you need to enter this voting code. So let's get started. And if there is any query or any ambiguity from the people who have joined us online, you can please write it in the chat. Yeah, just a minute, sir. It has to be the first one. Yeah, and can you just repeat the code screen? What's the code for them? You can write it in the chat as well, Sir Shahid, and the voting code is 2519459. 2519459. You can go to menti.com. You'll get an option to enter a passcode. Please let me know when you are able to successfully put the passcode or the voting code. Anybody who is successful? Okay, that's great. So this means this is working. Yeah, and again, a reminder for the people on Zoom, you need to go to menti.com. The voting code is 2519459. You have options to give at least 2 responses. So the question is, what do you think of when you hear the word engagement? And you don't need to tell that wearing a ring would mean engagement. Engagement in a classroom, engagement with the students. What is your interpretation of the word engagement in a classroom? We'll just take 1 more minute and then we can see the responses. Yeah, this is what we're doing. We have to enter any sample word. Just write anything. It's absolutely fine, Sir Gohar. You need to enter any keyword in anything. You can just write Naomi and then the second word could be Justin and then just submit it. Yeah. And we'll go to the responses. All right, so have the rest of you recorded your responses as well? Can we scroll down to the screen? Can we see this? All right. Can you go to the home so we can see the responses if anybody. It's not showing you the count over there. All right, we have a little difficulty because we are having probably 2 to 3 different laptops to operate. So can we just quickly go to the verbal responses then? Okay, so Ma'am Musarat, you were about to say for you engagement is?
When it's mental
Okay.
and it's when you are engrossed in something.
Okay, so that would mean when you are mentally engrossed in something.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any other response?
I would say when physically they are engaged as well, they are active. So I feel maybe I'm kinesthetic. So I think when they are moving, they are engaged, they are learning, they're exploring, they're discussing. So for
And
me,
probably that was one perspective people were not really learning in the online
Absolutely.
classes. Okay, so the physical presence. Yes, any other response? How would you define engagement?
Interactive learning.
Okay, interactive learning. Any other response, please? Pardon me? Okay, developing interest. Any other response?
For me, it's the participation and involvement of the student. And when we say participation, of course, in that manner, I'm referring to the group participation, where we have different things like discussion and etc. But when I say the word involvement, so with that, I'm referring to if a teacher is keeping the student engaged with different mental activities where, their mental abilities are involved, even that could be an individual activity as well.
All right.
Participation and involvement.
Yeah, can you just click on send me the results? Okay, I'm so sorry for this, but probably we are on a different laptop, so it's fine. We can do this a little while later. So if we can observe, most of the people think engagement can be intellectual, it could be physical engagement for someone, and everybody in a way has a different response. The same is applicable when we talk about our students in the class. Can we go to the presentation, please? And I hope we also have some responses on Zoom in which people might be sharing that for them what engagement is. So when we talk about student engagement, the experts, I presume we'll have techno labs today. I don't know. Next slide, please. All right. So according to the professionals, somebody talked about intellect, somebody talked about mental abilities. So student engagement is defined as a student's psychological investment into something. Yes, it has to be physical as well, but this is more of a psychological investment in which they are directed towards learning, understanding, and then mastering. And I hope these words just ring Bloom's taxonomy into your mind when you talk about the higher order thinking skills and the lower order. So they have to be involved psychologically into something, and that helps them basically to master the knowledge or the crafts or the academic work that is being taught to them. So here comes our next question, that why is there a need even to examine student engagement? Why are we even having this session? What's the need to have student engagement? Wouldn't it be convenient if people are just sitting, they're attending and they leave? I would not really know how well engaged they were. What is your understanding? What do you think? Why do we need to examine student engagement? Any idea? To gauge learning.
Gauge learning and the other is getting everyone to be on the same page. So when you get feedback from students, then you are conveying the others what learning has happened or what has people understood.
All right. So one answer is that we need to gauge what we are doing. Yeah. Any Ramisha?
Very important
students sitting in a class, because class is full of diverse students and each and every student has some different learning styles. So knowing their perspective and catering to those needs, I think it's very important we actually consider that they're engaged and see what, in what manner are they looking at one certain thing, because there's a lot of perspective to one concept. There are a lot of ideas to one image. So I think we need to know that and we need to acknowledge those things as well.
Yes, thank you so much. So I get the word different. The reason we are talking about examining our students is because until and unless we examine and we gauge, we would not really know that how effective the learning has been. And in order to make them more proactive, in order to increase their attention span and focus, we need to ensure that our students are properly engaged. So before we proceed again, we have, okay, I hope this will be sorted now. So what you need to do is you need to go to padlet.com and you need, the instructions are already there. I would just want to know, because this is a topic that most of us are already practicing it. It is not something really new, and some of us are already doing these practices. So if you just go to padlet.com and mention over there that what activities, I'm not talking about learning activities, what generic activities do you perform in the class to ensure that your students are engaged with you during the learning session. Can you display that as well? All right, and we have been able to get the cloud response on menti.com, and most of the people responded. It has to be interaction, participation, involvement, eye-to-eye contact, body language. So yeah, thank you for your responses. This is basically what it is supposed to be. Sir Shahid, can we just go to the link on Padlet? It has to be the third tab.
Miss Naomi, sorry to interrupt you, but the link that is in the PowerPoint, it is not working.
Okay, you can just go to padlet.com. It will be padlet.com and just search for that Padlet, the third link.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just go to padlet.com and search activities for student engagement, you will easily be able to find it. You don't need to have an account or a registration for that. And the way in which you are going to respond to your responses would be click on this plus sign. A pop-up box is going to open up. Please mention your name in the subject and then write your comment in that what do you think? What activities? Yeah, you can just write your name in the subject.
Miss, can you please copy this link and
You don't need to
share it
install,
in
just
the
go to
chat
Google
box?
Chrome and enter padlet.com. You don't need to have.
It requires
Why
sign
not?
in.
It should not ask for sign up. This. Can you keep it just, no.
Yeah.
Okay, can you people just log in with your FC College account? Though they should not ask for any account registration. I use it regularly. But I presume today is the day in which we are going to have different kinds of engagement with technology and techno labs and all such things. So Shahid, can you please display the link at the same time? Alt tab. Just click on Alt tab. We'll go to the presentation. Yeah, Alt tab. If you want to go directly to the link, this is the link. That's https://padlet.com/Naomi Justin. And then you have the address. I hope people on Zoom are able to access it. Can we just check that?
I think the best way would be to simply copy and paste in our Zoom tab.
Yeah, you can do that. Will be convenient for the people who are online, but probably a little problematic for the people who are in person. Okay, we can
Miss,
have
if
the
you can
verbal
just send the
responses.
link,
Yeah, we can have
we
it
can-
in two-way communication. Yes, please.
We can have barcodes of the links. We can directly
Scan that. Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Okay, till the time the people who are on Zoom, they start responding to us on Padlet, how would you contribute? What activities do you use for student engagement in the class? Okay, so the okay, group discussion can be one of them. Thank you. Any other thing? But I would just repeat again, this is not particularly for learning activities. Other than learning activities, do you people perform any activities for student engagement? If I give my example, I usually use an icebreaker. So when I go to the class before I begin with my lesson, I usually ask them, how was the day or how was the weekend? Is there any news that's worth sharing? Or is there anything important that they think should be discussed? So this is usually how I start my classes with. Yes, sir, Adil.
What I do usually in my classes is that I set up, ending up having different learning stations. So it's not the group work, it is going to be eventually be the group work, but having different learning stations, doing different kind of works. So what happens is that I ask one station to move to the second station to get the information and come back to their original place. So it really helped me to kind of not doing the similar kind of instructions, but I think it is what exactly is differentiated instructions where every group of different students are working on different topics or covering different strands. So it helped them to keep them engaged. I found it really useful in my case. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you for sharing this tip. Yes, ma'am, Musarat.
So I use rubrics, especially when I'm making students present. So I get them to come up with a rubric for the presentations. And thank you. And that keeps everyone engaged because everyone is also marked or graded on the completion of those rubrics.
All right. What I can observe is that again and again, we are going back to the learning activities that we do to engage our students. Well, what I meant by engagement was not specifically when it comes to the learning assessments or learning activities, because we'll be talking about them in a while. So Ms. Ramisha, yeah.
Part of the engagement other than the learning experiences you're talking about? If icebreakers are something that you think are not like, the learning engagement, so would exit slips would be part of that too? That
Yes, it could be a part of that because when, as we were talking about disciplines, it can vary. When we are talking about all these activities and engagement, it cannot be narrowed down or be applicable for every discipline because every discipline has a different requirement. So we are talking about certain things that are generic, that would be universal. And again, it would be entirely dependent upon the instructor that how he or she would like to make use of an activity. So as I gave an example that usually I come up with an icebreaker, or especially if we are coming after the weekend, I ask them what happened over the weekend. Was there anything worth sharing? Would they like to contribute to anything? So it's just like a warm-up session, the way we did when we talked about our superpowers. And this is where DEI steps in when we talk about the instructional design of engaging all the students. And we need to have DEI in our instructions because we have students with different needs, coming from different educational backgrounds, having different attention spans, having different language abilities itself, and having different cultural backgrounds. And at times we don't realize that when we are talking about a certain topic or a certain concept, some of the students might be left behind. If I share my personal example, I remember when I was teaching, and I usually found at my previous work that the students, especially the boys from the north side, they were very shy. They never used to participate a lot. And I started thinking that maybe this is their personality trait. They don't really like to talk much. But I learned later on that because they come from a background in which they do not usually communicate with the feminine people or the females around them. So they are a little hesitant when it comes to talking to a female teacher. So DEI ensures that we are including all the aspects. It could be cultural, gender, physical, economic status, and religious or spiritual beliefs. So talking about DEI, it gives us an understanding that how we need to consider or how do we need to keep in mind what student engagement is all about. And this helps us to shape to a framework which is known as universal design of learning. But I would also want you to pause for a moment and consider the discussion that we had till now. Keeping the time constraint in mind, I would not be taking the responses as for now, but I think this could be a key takeaway that when you go to your class or whenever you end your class, how do you ensure that all learners are equally engaged? It should not mean that a specific set of students who are very confident or specific students probably who are very talkative or the ones who are always there participating. We need to ensure that all learners are equally engaged in our classroom when we are teaching them. Yes, ma'am.
So I think formative assessment strategies, when you use them at different points in lesson and engage different students rather than the same students, then you are comparatively confident that your students have learned and you know what's happening.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And definitely this is what we are going to talk about when we talk about our universal design of learning. And I am again unable to change my slide.
Miss Naomi, there are a few responses in the chat box as well.
Yes, please.
So Dr. Anam is saying that she uses the communication examples about different cultures. For example, FIFA 2022, Ms. Rana Rubab is saying she uses discussions and peer work and role plays. And Dr. Abdullah from CPPG is saying that he uses group presentations and regular group works and learning things and poster presentations. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Ms. Anish, and thank you, yes, to all the participants who are responding on Zoom. So this is what UDL framework talks about. Universal design of learning is a design basically that offers you multiple means of engagement. And in these multiple means of engagement, there are three most important. That is multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, and then multiple means of action and expression. And then we will be talking a little bit about that, how we can have different learning activities and assessments in each of the category. So when we talk about multiple means of engagement, it has to be.
Excuse me, madam.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for the
No, it's
interruption.
absolutely fine.
Actually, before moving forward, I would like to know that is there any different level of difficulty to be engaged in the class for school children and undergrad students from the student perspective? And similarly, is there any difference in the strategies from the teacher side to engage the students in the class, the children and the undergrad students? Or they are same across age and from student perspective and from teacher perspective? Thank you.
All right, thank you for the question. Should I give the answer right away or should I just keep it till the end? Because once we finish up our slides, I'm sure you'll be able to find answers to a lot of questions that we have over here. So if you could just allow me, and then I can go back to the answer, yeah. So the multiple means of engagement is the why of learning. The students need to know why they are learning something. And for that, we can probably activate their interest. We can provide them individual choice and autonomy, and we can vary the demand to challenge the learners. The second component is multiple means of representation, which is the what of learning. After knowing the why of learning, they need to know the what of learning, and then they can have different ways in which they can access information and they can gain knowledge. Previously, we were only limited to books probably or photocopies. That was the only option. But with the access of technology and internet, we have so many options in which we can provide information to our students. It could be video links, it could be articles, it could be research blogs, it could be discussion forums, it could be seminars as well. And lastly, the multiple means of action and expression should be the how of learning. Probably this would be something that you were talking about, in which it varies the way students express what they know, and then we can provide them different options to explore when they want to represent themselves. And again, we were supposed to have an activity, but I don't know that would Padlet let us access. Can the people who are online access the link? They are not even able to access the link. All right, I'm really sorry. I don't know. There is probably some techno lapse because I use Padlet very regularly in my class. We don't make up any accounts and usually we don't have any difficulty, but today seems to be a different day. All right, so we can go with the verbal responses. Learning activities may, Ma'am Musara said we talked about formative assessments, summative assessment. Somebody talked about group discussions. Sir Adil had a different perspective. So when we talk about the UDL framework, it suggests us different learning activities that we can have for our students, and in which we can offer them different options to complete assignments. They can come up with different learning activities. And other than that, it would always vary that how would you want to improvise your learning activity. If I again give my example, so whenever I'm teaching a linguistic course that is about semantics and pragmatics, in which you study the types of meanings and the theories of meaning. So my way of executing that theory to practical activity is that I ask my students to either pick up their favorite novel or a book, or I ask them to pick up any favorite movie, watch that scene, and then see that how language is contributing to different connotations or denotations, and how we can identify different types of meanings in those probably written dialogues or those spoken dialogues. So again, but whatever we are giving them as a learning activity, it's really important that prior to that, your students know they should connect to the why, they should be clear about the what, and then only they will be able to facilitate the how. And other than learning activities, the second thing is the assessments, something that you were, sir, already talking about. And again, we can either assign them group assessments, we can make use of authentic assessments, we can present them with multiple ways to present. It could be a presentation. I remember that whenever we are teaching writing and communication 102 course to the students, so there is a very 101 and 102 that varies. So usually we conduct a presentation with them, which is known as the Picha Kucha presentation. And it's the Japanese word, which means telling a story. And the format of that presentation is that you need to only paste an image in the presentation and you need to narrate a story in 20 seconds. So right after 20 seconds, the storyline should change along with the picture, and then they have to complete that presentation in 20 minutes. So it just helps them to be very precise. It helps them to decide which image is sufficient enough to convey an entire story. And it helps them to, again, structure the entire story in a proper unified way. So there can be different activities and different assessments that we can talk about. And because I need to reserve some time for Q&A as well, I would want to just suggest some technology options that if we want to engage your students, there are different platforms that you can use. Some of them are these. Other than these, you can use Kahoot, Slack, Zoom. Mamu Nearpod the other day, she was telling us about one of the online platforms. So these are different ways. My most common one, I just hope I'm able to use Kahoot now. At the moment is a Kahoot application in which I usually, whenever I have finished up my lecture, I add up different questions for a recap, and it helps me to understand that how well the students were engaged, how many of them were actually listening to me instead of hearing to the lecture, and how many of them actually can recall or remember what was the content of the day. So I'm going to pause over here. Please let me know if you're able to access Kahoot now. I hope you people do. So you can go to kahoot.com and the game pin should be 3258577. And if the people who have joined us online, if they are able to access the Kahoot link, then please let me know about that. Again? Okay, today is not my day.
The link is working. It's absolutely working. It's just the
Pardon me?
internet connectivity issue.
Okay. So Sir Daniel is suggesting we should try kahoot.it. And this is another example that although you are well prepared, you have practiced all the links, but if the technology doesn't support you in the class, your engagement can go low as well. So this is another key take or learning for us. Not yet. Anybody? Okay, so Sir Shahid, if you can just show a demonstration here. Yeah, can you just click on start? You can log in. I've already saved my password there. Okay, Ms. Anish. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Anish, if you are doing that for us. So one way in which I try to engage my students usually after the class is by using a quiz format on Kahoot.
So Shahid, you can share your screen. I think the internet at my end is a bit slow, so you can share it.
And if you could just wait for 5 minutes, I would just like to do a demonstration on Padlet as well, that how I use a Padlet application and how I find it very engaging. The pin is 3258577. 3258577. Thank you, Kahoot.
It doesn't.
Okay, so today technology doesn't want to support me. No, it's absolutely fine. Can we just go to the Padlet link for a moment? Can you just go to the link on Padlet? The second. It's absolutely fine. No problem, ma'am. Yeah, can you just go over here and screen share? So when we are talking about Padlet, the most effective way of doing is you can click. Okay, yeah. Can you write any comment over here? Just right. Yeah, Ma'am Naomi is a very good instructor. Any such example? No,
Excuse me, ma'am. Is that fine? In the meanwhile, we are fixing it. I just want to talk
Yeah,
about.
we can go for the Q&A. Yeah.
In that we can manage this time as well. So
Yeah.
I just want to highlight the concept of learners. You have wonderfully placed beautiful words behind the diversity behind the learners. But there is another way that the general description that we know that there are three types of learner over there. The one is the visuals, the other ones who take learning in a better way through auditory, and the last one are the kinesthetics. The most orthodox learners of earlier times were the first two. But with the passage of time and technology and the nature of the growth of the students, we are more like kinesthetics in our classrooms. So it will help us to understand that there are different types of students, or how many different types of students exist in our class. So a very simple basic sorts of activity can help us to identify that my class is belongs to auditory learners, or my class belongs to kinesthetic learners. So we can just, with the help of some simple activities, we can initially should classify our students in our class first before we move further.
Yeah,
That will
thank you
help
so
us.
much for this suggestion. And yes, I find it really helpful because when I myself learned about it, so I would categorize myself as a visual learner. So if there is nothing in front of my eyes, and if it's more of a lecture mode, I am unable to recall after a while that what the person is saying, or my attention span just loses and I'm not able to focus. So it's very important, yes, that when we talk about DEI, we need to know that what are the strengths probably, or what kind of a learner a student is, and then that's going to help us in a
And also,
different
it also
way.
depends on the nature of the content of the
Yeah.
classroom, because the natural sciences department and the classroom, they need more or less like activity-based learning or engagement. But I believe that on the other side, social sciences or history, it's fine to conversations and other things are fine. But people believe that there are good teachers or bad teachers. But I believe that there are different types of students out there. So as a teacher, you need to understand how many different types of students are out there.
Yeah, you're very absolutely right, because once we have a proper know-how of what kind of learners you have in your class, it helps you to formulate your either lecture or your presentation accordingly. Yeah. Yeah, and we also have a lot of sort of the way we have personality tests. We have different activities in which students themselves can gauge that what kind of learner they are. In Univ 100, especially when we are talking and we talk about, I've forgotten, John Longman, it helps you to identify that what are your personal interests and how you can figure out at what kind of a personality you would have. And we have, one answer is pending. Yes, Ma'am, sir, please.
Okay, so the part where they say DEI equity. Now, I feel that in our system, it's not a problem with the teaching and the learning, but the kind of system that prevails in our education system, which is when everyone must be familiar with that image where there is a lion and an elephant and a fish, and you are giving the same task to them. Now, equity means that you are catering to differently abled people at their level. Now, how do you think that this equity can be taken care of or be addressed in the situation inside a classroom in universities?
Right. And for that, we have an updated form of DEI framework, I would say, which is known as DEIB. Sir Shahid, would it be possible if we can just go to the slides once again? I did not show that slide because of the time constraint, but if you could just show, that's fine. So it tells you about the belonging, concept of belonging. Yes, please. Can you go to the previous slides, please? Mazid, previous again, back. थोड़ा सा और पीछे, please. अभी जाते चाहिए. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So if you see, this framework tell that when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, all of these things, until and unless a student feels that he or she belongs, he would still not be able to engage properly. So the DEIB framework is basically which helps us to design the instruction according to the UDL framework. A student has to know, feel, and realize that he or she belongs somewhere. And once we engage them fully, and when they know they belong, only in that case, they will be able to learn and be engaged more properly. I hope this answers.
I'm not saying, I'm saying that does our system allow this? I'm talking about the system and how that system allows for equity. And so the teacher's effectiveness, of course, that matters. But then,
Okay, so my question is that how can we cater to equity inside a classroom, especially when we are assessing students?
The answer would be that as Sir added his comment as well, first of all, we need to gauge the level of our learners, what kind of a learner they are. And that also helps you to identify that what are the question that Sir already posed as well, that when the school classrooms are same age group, that why do we need to know that how they're learning differently, or is their engagement happening at a different level? But to ensure that we're having, unfortunately, the system does not allow that. But I think as an instructor, we have this much freedom in the room that whenever we want to innovate and whenever we are trying to do something according to the requirement or the need of the students, we can always make a change over there. Thank you. And yes, sir, going back to your question, you asked that when we are having the same grade and same mindset and same age group as well. However, we just realized that regardless of these factors, the students are coming from very diverse backgrounds. It could be cultural, it could be financial, it could be social, it could be with a different type of ideology. So even if they are sitting in the same room on the same benches with the same instructor, same content, every learner is learning differently. Every learner is being engaged differently as well. And then there comes the role of the instructor to ensure and optimize their learning. So the answer would be no, it's not the same, even if they're sitting in the same classroom setting. Even if I conclude that we have people from very diverse backgrounds, but when most of us would be stepping out of this room, probably everyone would not remember everything. Some of us would be having a lot of key takeaways to take away with us. Some of us might not remember more than one or two things. So when we being so experienced and being in the same environment, are learning things differently, the same is applicable for the students as well. So do we have any other questions or any other comments on Zoom? Okay, we have 5 more minutes and then I think we can.
Okay, so I have this comment, not a question.
Yes, please.
That I have, kind of realized in my teaching career that you have a course outline, right? And you are supposed to go by it. But sometimes you see that students can't, grasp all those concepts.
Yeah.
So I believe that then, you can kind of improvise and, listen to their needs and how they want to go along the course. So then, redesign all that instead of just covering the content so that, you are able to finish the course. And the second thing that I want to say is that I'm teaching independent students as well. So in that case as well, you need to cater to their needs rather than, focusing on the content. I think that's really important.
Yes, and I think as instructed, we all should remember that instead of the quantity, the quality of the course is more important. So if again, going back to my example, if I'm teaching them phonetics and phonology, and because it's a lot of technical information, so the moment I realize they are unable to focus and their attention span is diverting, I just stop there and we decide to do it later in any other class, and then we do any other activity, which basically helps them. So yeah, you're very right that content is, as an instructor, I would say for me as well, content is more important, the quality instead of the quantity. And then you find different ways that how you can cover up the course as well, and still you need to ensure that their concepts are clear. Ji Ramisha.
I just have a little comment and then a comment following with a question. As Dr. Mustafa and you refer to different kind of learners, which I would believe you people were talking about Howard Gardner's theory, which talks about different kind of learners that exist in the classrooms, visual learners, kinesthetic learners, audio-visual learners. But this theory actually received a lot of criticism. So that's just a comment, although I do in some way support that theory, but if you read about it, it received a lot of criticism. So keeping it aside, my question now is that, with all the diversity that we just let's take FC for an example. You talked about, we have students from North Balochistan coming to Lahore. There's a lot of difference as per their upbringing is concerned, their culture is concerned, language and etc. But how to ensure actually equality and equity at the same time in the classrooms, because each learner would have a different need. I am from South Punjab, coming from Dera Ghazi Khan, a very backward area, of course. Once I entered in the class, it was very difficult for me to interact. I had some different needs. But okay, I coped up in everything. But as a teacher, since we're talking here about students' engagement, so how can we actually ensure equality and equity inside the class, considering other factors? Let's not talk about the different kinds of learners, like visual learners and etc. Let's take some simple examples, like we have a lot of students coming with different backgrounds, different languages, different lifestyles, let's say. So how can we ensure or we can cater to those needs in our classrooms or learning environment?
All right, that is where basically UDL framework steps in, the universal design of learning. Because of the time constraint, I did not read out all the responses, but I'm sure when you receive this recording and presentations, and one thing I would like all of you, that if you're able to explore Padlet and the rest of the applications on your own, then please go ahead. It's a very engaging tool, because the way we do it on social media, we make a comment and then other person contribute, everybody can see the wall. So that's very engaging because in the class, the students can see that in the real time, and then they are engaged, they want to comment, they want to participate. So it's a very good application. Now, going back to the answer, that when we talk about universal design of learning, it suggests you different ways that when we are talking about the how, what, and why of learning, you can give, you need to offer diversity to the students. For example, let me come up with a very real example at the moment. There can be students who are not really good in writing, and then there can be a few who are very well expressive, they can do that. So I need to identify the areas. Okay, what's hindering them to become a good writer? Is it the language? Is it the grammar? Is it the sentence structure that's causing a problem? So I think as an instructor, that's what we are supposed to do, that we need to identify their needs, the way we talk about I would say like TNA, having a training need analysis, or a very short assessment of their writing patterns to analyze that where do they lack. And then you would know that, for example, okay, this student requires a lot of writing practice. You can suggest him or her some websites. Like I usually tell them to go to futurelearn.com, and then they can their improved writing. They can watch documentaries if they are trying to focus on the pronunciation. So we need to come up with different learning activities to help our students cater those needs. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
So sorry for that.
No, absolutely fine.
We are learning a lot, by the way. So thank you very much for this. But the point is that the learning is the biggest conscious activity of human mind. So and the number of variables behind that activity will always haunt us. There is no single successful formula of being an effective teacher in a classroom. There's so much diversity. But as a teacher, I'm more interested to know that whether the failure of my student or the troubles which my student is feeling in my classroom should not belong to me. I mean, that's the one thing as a teacher we can try to identify and to learn, that it should not be me who is the reason, who is not able to disseminate stuff in a proper way. So I think our activities and other things in the learnings are a reason for us to understand that it should not be us. And also, I am a very great admirer of making things simple for the students instead of complicating the stuff. And I enjoy always the wonderful fancy words from you guys, and it's wonderful for us to learn and to know that these beautiful things. But we should take all these things to us, and we should give the students the most simple, clarified, because I believe the 21st century is all about having a clarity as a teacher or as a student. So we should give them like a way they can learn things in a more simple and better way, and making our activities or all these complicated jargons with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for the comments, sir. Thank you. Yes, please.
And I know doers don't like jargon. I think that's what I said beginning straight on in my introduction, that this is a lot of jargon which doers probably do not ascribe to. But knowing it does not really offset your work. So when we talk, I wonder if you realized that we were doing pretty well, but COVID made us realize we were not doing emotional well-being. COVID made us realize that we were not taking care of the challenges of all types of students. So it brought that to light. And unfortunately or fortunately, this is the language that is being demanded all over the world. So whenever you go into an educational campus, the educational campus will put these words up as a requirement in an effective classroom. Now, students don't have to know this, of course, but we have to know what these words stand for, what are these academic objectives that they require of us, because as you go into now, whenever we start formulating our course objective, a lot of it will be this, though you might not use DEI, that all our students should be equally equipped and have that access and opportunity and so many other things. So this is for your consumption. It is for you to think that this jargon, of course, has to be translated to action. And without action, this jargon is meaningless. And I also don't describe the jargon a lot, but this is the language coming in the literature now about teaching and learning. So knowing it doesn't harm us, but what you're doing a great job anyway. So I know that each, like I said before, that you hear a jargon, I as a teacher or you as a teacher would think, what is it? And when you unpack it, you suddenly realize, but I'm doing it already. And that's what I know all of you are doing. You're doing it already. We're just unpacking it for you, so you don't get well done. So, but the point well taken. And we try not to put jargon top up. We'll try to bring it to the end of the session. And the point well taken. I know all people are not in the educational domain and it would be difficult to deal with that jargon and we don't want to bother you some more. Huh. Yeah. That is what you do for your classroom, I agree. But if you have a formula and a universal design of learning, it tells you there are three, and that is not the only formula, by the way, for DEI. There are many others. This is one way of learning. So if you know there are three possibilities, you keep those simple three things. The hit and trial will be a bit less.
I feel that creating an awareness and being aware and cognizant of the different learning strategies available. There are times that we forget or we don't have time for those things to be doing them in the class. But, you know, these sessions, what they do, at least for me, is that they constantly remind us that we need to be aware and we need to be conscious of these aspects and do them. We don't do them all the time, but we try and include these and incorporate them and embed them in our teaching and learning. I think that is what this is about for me, at least. Thank you very much, Naomi.
Thank you. And my apologies again. I don't know why technology didn't want me to engage my audience properly, but I'm looking forward that when we share the presentations, you all can explore these links. I've used menti.com, Padlet, Kahoot. Kahoot is my most favorite for a recap because then over there I give a lot of incorrect options and within 10 seconds, the students have to choose the right one. So it helps me to know how attentive and how quick they are. So apologies for that, but I hope that you'll still explore the links and you'll explore these tools. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for responding to the poll as well. I'm so sorry for the bad internet issue today. We could not show these slides and everything, the links. I will be sharing the slides with you so you can visit the links at your own pace.
She's saying that because of the internet, we were unable to load the pages because maybe we had the outage. Yeah, so that is the reason. But she's saying we can share the slides later.
Yes, Miss Naomi, you have comments in the chat box. People are saying thanks to you and saying that it was a wonderful session from your end.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.